Well, good morning, everyone. I think we are ready to start with all the technology in line. And maybe wait for Ani to come in. Welcome to all of you here. This first part of the talk was called Welcome Address, but when we were talking with Patricia about this part, we were calling it Setting the Mood. That's not on the official, but it's a little bit more feminine to me. So, setting the mood with the images of the tower and the images of some of Christiana Morgan from her manuscripts. I'll be staying on script, and that way I will not be lost in Trump world, because but the script is my own. So I'll be reading a lot of it, and I'll try not to go too fast. If I do, slow me down, okay? So, first of all, a warm welcome to all of you attending today to honor the legacy of Christiana Morgan and the tower she built, which now needs our loving attention. We all have come forth to meet this challenge, and I would like to thank all of you for the many ways you are contributing and participating in this effort. As you know, the tower has suffered much neglect and abuse over the last few decades after Morgan's death in 1967. Since the Governor's Academy, a private boarding school, which is a neighbor to the tower, took ownership of it in 1969, this creation has moved toward destruction and slow demise. The school, without knowledge and appreciation of the treasure they have in their possession, deemed it to use it as faculty housing. Most recently, this poor stewardship allowed leaks from the roof to destroy Christiana's books and her library. Several objects have gone missing over the years. The beautiful sculpture of Gaston Lachaz of her was removed to a corner in the school's art studio, gathering dust. The stained glass windows cracking, and the beautiful bed, carved bed, that you will see in the film, gone without trace. At the end of the symposium, Hilary Morgan will walk us through the images of neglect and the possibilities for restoration. We hope that with all of our efforts and better understanding by the school, we can restore and return the tower to what it once was, originally was intended to be, a place for retreat, inspiration, and creativity. The tower, as a physical structure, is assessed by Brian Pfeiffer, an architect and preservationist of historical buildings. He says, my observation is that the building is unique in New England, not just in its form, but in its artistic choices. Neither its plan nor decoration fits standard stylistic conventions. In the Morgan Tower, the wishes are not merely aesthetically idiosyncratic, but they are a result of a more complicated philosophy and a way of life. The tower requires an understanding of the whole, the architecture, the meaning of decoration, the philosophy that guided the creation of the house and landscape, and the intended way of living in the house. The two documentaries which we will view today, one by Hilary Morgan and the other by a trio of students whose work was commissioned by Harry Murray, will allow us to see expressions of some of the complicated philosophy the architect is referring to. Structurally, I would like only to point out to the three levels in the tower corresponding to psychic structure. On the level below ground is the visioning room, where Christiana turned to engage the unconscious. Some of its products are selected from her visions by her to be commemorated in the stained glass windows. Above it, on the ground level, is the bedroom, the heart of the structure, the life of the body. This is a space dedicated to Eros in the erotic, with the ceiling and the carving commemorating, commending Amor Fati. That's the image of that ceiling in the bedroom. On the top floor is the study with a large desk overlooking the flowing river, looking out onto the world. This is the room where Christiana studied and wrote, where logos predominated, but in the deep embrace of Eros. You will see these rooms in the films. The tower on the marsh took 40 years of creating it, as Christiana worked on it inside and outside to be in perfect harmony with the surrounding environment. The interior is full of paintings and carvings, mostly done by Christiana herself. Here's just a small sample of the carved images. Let's stop on this one. Crafting images, James Hillman wrote, is an equivalent of soul-making. This crafting can take place in the concrete modes of the artisans, he says, the work of the hands, and with the morality of the hands, imagined from the perspective of soul as uppermost concern. Christiana Morgan's tower is an act of soul-making indeed, and her soul's celebration of conjunctio, both inner and outer. It is dedicated to love, to embodied spirituality, choosing to live in the creative coupling that she and Harry Murray consciously embarked upon. They believe this to be the highest philosophy, a full commitment to the eternal archetype of Hieros Gamos. In their writings, they refer to it as synergy, the individuation of two as one. They created many personal rituals to mark and celebrate their union. She confessed that, quote, there is no action greater and prouder than in the vessel of love. The spiritual home for this action was the tower. The tower is thus also a monument and a shrine to this commitment, a consciously designed and lived life where the dark and the light are both present, where pain and joy can be consciously confronted. Robert Stein, another Jungian analyst, deceased, in his book Incest and Human Love, writes that the notion of the sacred and eternal erotic union of the lover and the beloved, the Hieros Gamos, is behind the experience of our soul connection with another person. When this image is released into the physical body, the beloved is experienced as sacred. Sensual and sexual love has a sacred quality to which we have lost a deeper connection in our era. Jung wrote in Modern Man in Search of Soul that, quote, our civilization enormously underestimates the importance of sexuality, but just because of the repressions imposed upon it, sexuality breaks through into every conceivable field where it does not belong, and uses such an indirect mode of expression that the way we may expect to meet it all of a sudden practically everywhere, and we notice what's happening in our current time around that. Eros in the erotic lost its rightful place in soul-making. Christiana Morgan, her visions and her life brought this loss to her attention and tried to remedy it by dedicating her own life to reclaiming what was lost. Although the tower at Bollingen was already in existence, and Ami Romberg will take us there today, it may have inspired Harry Murray, who visited it with Jung. Christiana, however, was inspired by some other towers, as she writes about them in the 1950s when she looks back on what the tower means to her. This is her typing, but I read it. Here where I have garnered up my heart, where either I must live or bear no life, the very source from which my current runs, or else dries up. And she evokes Nietzsche. Every select man strives instinctively for a citadel and a privacy, where he is free from the crowd, the many, the majority, where life is a well of delight. Then she calls upon the inspiration by Yeats. Blessed be this place, more blessed still this tower. Alexandria's was a beacon tower, and Babylon's an image of the moving heavens, a logbook of the sun's journey and the moon's. And Shelley had his towers, thoughts, crowned powers, he called them once. We may ask, what is the Morgan Tower a beacon of? I already referred to love, a union, a hero's garment, a conjunctio. In an earlier talk this week at the Jung Foundation, I spoke about the images of conjunctio of Christiana Morgan's visions. I would like to return to them briefly today and evoke these earlier visions for us as well. But that will create the mood. Claire Douglas, Christiana Morgan's biographer and editor of the Vision Seminars, suggests that Morgan's visions as a whole anticipates Jung's final work on the mystery of conjunctio. As you may know, Jung dedicated more than a decade of writing his final major work, the Mysterium Conjunctionis, an inquiry into the separation and synthesis of psychic opposites in alchemy. This magnum opus begins with these lines. The factors which come together in the conjunctio are conceived as opposites, either confronting one another in enmity or attracting one another in love. In alchemy, conjunctio is, quote, a symbol of the supreme and ultimate union, bringing the work to its final consummation and binding the opposites by love. Christiana Morgan's opus was to unite the opposites in embodied love, thus creating herself as Jung suggested she must. At the beginning of her analysis in 1926, he told her that visions brought forth in active imagination are, quote, more than dreams, because they represent the mixing and fusing of the conscious with the unconscious. This is the solution of the opposites, the middle way. Jung says also that all the great philosophers have known this, and through this one can find the way. Christiana Morgan's visions are superb examples of how her visions became her guide to her individuation. Beyond her personal journey, her visions, as Jung pointed out, are also a document humain, containing material for analysis for the next centuries. As Jung advised her to create a book for herself, she created 3 beautiful volumes of the visions awaiting publications. Let me go back to this. Perhaps that would be another project. In the first volume, the subject of the first 2 years of the Vision Seminars, as you might recollect the image, she travels through, images, travels from meeting a depressed American Indian by a black pond with a dead horse beside him. Then she journeys through time with her animals. She meets the great pagan god Pan. She descends further into the realm of the goddess in initiation resembling the sacred marriage rituals dedicated to Ilona. There she accepts her womanhood. Next, she meets up with the Dionysian black god figure, uniting with him in blood. This image may be considered as the first conjunctio, as the earthly dark masculine declares, "You are wedded to me." The next image is called the picture of serpent with 3 rings and crown, points to another kind of union emerging, perhaps fulfilled later in the synergy and the tower. In the womb of an Ouroboros snake, a union of male and female is seen in embrace. Christiana associated this image in 1926 to her potential relationship with Harry, making it an image of both the inner and the future outer union. In the second volume of her book, which is titled Transitus, her visionary journey continues. Transitus is a movement. In Christianity, it is referred to the time of passage through death to life. Jung amplifies the word in the seminars, saying that transitus in certain old cults meant carrying the symbol, as the pine tree carried in the cult of Attis, or Mithra carrying the slain bull, or Christ carrying the cross. They all mean carrying a heavy burden of the new in symbol. We know something important is held in this volume, and it is unfortunate that it was not included in the Vision seminars. It would be a volume well worth publishing, as it contains superb images both of the meaning of the transitus and the conjunctio. We'll only take a peek at it today. A vision called In the Time of Darkness is in this volume. She shows a descent followed by rebirth. The device of the vision is, quote, hold closely unto yourself, for in the time of darkness there is no unfolding. The image brings to mind the Egyptian Amduat, the descent and the rebirth of the sun on its 12-hour journey. At sunrise on the east, wriggling snakes, the cold-blooded creatures celebrating the return of the sun, the message to her, what she hears is, go forward to the mysteries of life, go forward in fearlessness. This vision is followed by what she called the amulet. It is another image of a union, although in the darker regions of the psyche. It is also in the stained glass window. She selected it as something important. In it, a blacksmith is at its forge, hammering something for Christiana to wear about her neck. When she sees that it is an amulet in the shape of a man and a woman holding up the sun, she says, yes, I will wear this. The left hand of the man and the right hand of the woman merged into one as they hold up the black sun. Their other hands are in the mouths of lions, giving more power and perhaps solar energies. As they stand upon a snake, they unite this earth creature with the solar lions. When she asked in the vision, asked the blacksmith, tell me who you are, he says, I'm the great worker of the underworld. This union is in the lower earthly region of psyche, but as Jung suggests, only if you first return to the body, to your earth, can individuation take place. Only then does the thing become true. Yet further unions are implied as the male and female are standing in the fire. Their passion and energy in need of further calcinatio. What comes next in the vision is an image of Nigredo, which often follows a lesser conjunctio. She is in the region of Sol Niger, the black sun. The vision is called the Promethean Valley. Oh, sorry, so sorry. That's the one I meant. Let's linger with that. It's called the Promethean Valley. What we see here is the alchemical operation of separatio and mortificatio, the suffering of the flesh and the burden of the new carried in transitus. It is an image of torment. The male and the female are separated and chained to the rocks as dark vultures flying above them, tearing at them. Yet between them flies the white doves of Aphrodite, the doves that promises love. This vision is followed by the female Abraxas. It is a powerful image of the female body burning in fire, yet another purificatio operation, if you wish. What is burning here is the Medusa, and from her head we see the spirit emerging as blue light. The following image comes right after Christiana left Jung and analysis. It reveals that the power of the objective psyche can be stronger than the analytical relationship with Jung. It continues healing and redeeming the feminine, and I find this a very important vision to consider. Christiana calls this vision the life scar. Here are the words of the vision. I saw a woman in green, with her hands to her eyes, standing upon a mound of skulls. I found that the woman that I had followed standing in a recess in the wall. She held the symbol high. The symbol is below. It was on fire and whirled like a wheel. I snatched it from her and told her to follow me while I ascended. She pulled a veil over her face and followed me. We came to a white rock and I said, I will see you. I pulled the veil from her face. She stood naked before me. Very white, through the center of her body was a red wound. I said, how can you be healed? She said, now. Then I saw that the moon was rising. When it was overhead, a great white light streamed from it, which enveloped the woman. When it disappeared, I saw that the wound was no longer there. I said, perhaps it will come again when the sun has risen. She said, we'll go forward to the dawn. We walked for a long time. The sun rose, and the wound appeared on the body of the woman. She put her hand into the wound and pulled forth a green spear. The wound instantly healed. She handed the spear to me, saying, now you are protected. I walked forward, holding my blue spear crossed with my green spear. The vision of this green woman, representing to me the generative aspect of the feminine, is found wounded and in mourning. Lunar consciousness, which dominated for millennia, was replaced by the solar consciousness of the hero, and is still in favor in our days, permitting a one-sidedness which Jung well recognized. It is to be healed in Christiana's vision by the moon. The moon played a significant role in the evolution of human consciousness. We find evidence for this as early as the Upper Paleolithic. Marshak, in his book, The Roots of Civilization, demonstrates how the phases of the moon were observed some 15,000 years ago by humanity during the Ice Age. These notations were made on old bones found across the continent. Their analysis revealed that the notations add up to a lunar year. As early humans were watching the night sky and the moon, they oriented themselves in time and space in the universe by observing and measuring that time. This is an early image of conjunctiotomy, increasing or collective consciousness. As you may know, some calendars, the Jewish and the Chinese, for example, still are based on the lunar months. We also know that the 28 days, roughly, of the cycles of the moon coincides with the 28-day cycles of normal female menstruation, thus bringing the moon and the woman's bodily mysteries into a deep relationship within nature. Lunar consciousness and the female body are conjoined and lend themselves to be a symbol for both the female and the feminine. In this image, in Christiana's vision, the female body is split by the wounding of the solar daylight consciousness. When she receives the rays of the moon, the wound is healed. The background is deep blue, the color of the heavens and the spirit, and the earth below. As the female also carries the spear, a weapon of the masculine, the image becomes another symbol of another kind of conjunctio. The feminine is able to integrate the aspects of the masculine. She rides on with two spears, the green spear and the blue spear, in her hands. She also upholds the sign of Ankh in flame, the Egyptian symbol for life. The final image in the manuscript is called At the Foot of the Mountain. The vision says, I lay at the foot of the mountain. The halo of light on top of the mountain sent down with white rays, which pierced my breast and seemed to hold me to the earth. I lay upon the ground with my arms outstretched. At my feet appeared the old man. I could dimly see him through the white rays of light. Suddenly a man sprang forth from each of my hands. A child sprang forth from my head. The child rose into the sky and changed to a blue flame. The blue flame changed to a wheel of blue fire, which rotated swiftly and hung in the sky above me. From my head came a blue light, from each hand yellow light, and from my feet come red light. The old man approached me. He looked fierce and strong. His white hair stood out about his face like a lion's mane. He took hold of my hands. I cried out in pain, saying that my hands were suffering. He said, "Rise up." I answered, "I cannot. The white light from the mountain holds me to the ground." The old man stood beside me, and raising his eyes to the mountain, he called out in a loud voice, "O mountain, withdraw your light from this woman, that she may rise." The light which had pierced my breast was withdrawn. It formed into a circle of white light around me. It touched my outstretched hands and healed them. I arose and began to ascend the mountain. As a final poignant image, we see the union of body, earth, and spirit. What we observe here is what Jung identified when he wrote, "The body is the past, or earth, the world of heretofore, but out of it rises a new light, which is not identical with the body." The two enemy holding her to the ground are released and permit her to rise. The spirit in matter and permits the rise of the spirit in matter to ascend. The voice of wisdom of the ages from the depths releases the feminine spirit to ascend to the mountain, the habitat of gods and goddesses. As the feminine is released, a new ruling principle where body and spirit weds may ascend. And now let us turn back to the tower, the culmination of a journey bringing us back to our earth.